frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
To win the race, I can't even explain how, in fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. No matter where you go, you're an Indy 500 winner. The only way to be successful in racing is to stay on top of the technical edge, and we've done that with our dealership. So a lot of the technology in our service department and sales processes, and everything is the very latest. That gives you an edge. That's being competitive in the car business. You can take it any way you want, but that's the truth.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sports Desk, live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Joined in studio by my close friend, my ProView colleague, New Mexico Highlands, voice of New Mexico Highlands, Richard Tripp. Rich, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Ed. You know, great to be here, man.
Yeah, it's
coming up from Las Vegas. A lot of rain up there. Everything's nice and green. But, yeah, it's nice to be here, man.
Also former co-host of the Sports Desk back in the day with Scott Galletti.
Back in the day.
You hosted the show. About how long, Rich, did you host it?
When I hosted it for 2 years. I actually succeeded the great Robert Portnoy when I came in, and I was the host. Scott and I, put it down for a couple of years. Had a lot of fun doing it. Then went up to Vegas and became the AD there at West, and retired from West and went to work at Highlands and doing their play-by-play, as you said, and that's about it right now, man.
I remember you and I talk at least once a week for about 35, 40 minutes, and you sound, and I'm near retirement in December, and you sound like you're really enjoying your retired life. But anytime I talk to you, and like I said, it's once a week, you still got meetings, you still got things to do. You're helping out at Highlands as a consultant.
Right.
Las Vegas means, like Albuquerque means, in Highland High School means the world to me.
Right.
West means, they even said happy birthday, Tripper, a couple weeks ago, which I thought was great. I really did. I told you about that, and
yeah.
You got a lot. You're well respected out there, and Las Vegas means, West means a lot to you. New Mexico Highlands means a lot to you. In the town of Las Vegas itself, our good friend Manny Lucero running for school board out there in Las Vegas. Good luck to him and all the candidates out there.
Right.
But Las Vegas means a lot to you.
It does, of course. Wasn't born there, but I was raised there. We moved out there when I was in the first grade. We actually used to live here in Albuquerque, and ironically, had we stayed living in Albuquerque, we moved to Las Vegas for some unfortunate events because my mother's from Las Vegas, but we would have actually attended Highland High School.
Right.
Had we stayed here in Albuquerque. Things didn't work out, went to Vegas, went to West Las Vegas, became a Don and played for the Dons, and went on to Highlands from there. My brother, of course, Gary, had a pretty good, successful career at Highlands as well, playing baseball. So, yeah, I'm but the whole town, not just West, Robertson. Always nice to see, the Cardinals doing well, even though there is still the rivalry going on. But man, as we say, it's once a Don, always a Don, man. That's just the way it rolls.
It's the colors are green and gold.
Green and gold.
So yes,
and I know people are trying to change them in Vegas, and they're going to get mad at me for saying this. Our colors are green and gold. That's all.
there's got to be a story. Of course, New Mexico Highlands, the purple and white. So your brother Gary, that I remember, because I was, he's a year younger than me or older than me. I was going to Holy Ghost at that time, but your brother also went to Wilson, right?
Right.
Because I knew some friends. They would always talk about Your brother and I barely missed playing with each other because I went to St. Pius instead of going. I went to Holy Ghost, the old St. Pius. Then I went to Highland. Your brother was at Highland. Him and I would have played together. But then when I came to Highland as a sophomore, he had already moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah, he played his freshman year, at Highland when Bill Gentry actually was still at Highland High School. And then his sophomore year, he decided to go back to Las Vegas and, go back to West and had a really good career. He actually came here for about 2 or 3 years. He wanted to get a taste of the big city life, I guess, in junior high as it was back then. Yeah, so, he did play 1 year at Highland.
Heck of an athlete himself, like you mentioned, the former director of the New Mexico Activities Association. And, when I got to tell you this story, and I think I've told you this before, when I was a referee, I officiated basketball for 22 years. And when your brother was the athletic director at Moriarty, there would be some schools here in Albuquerque, we couldn't even get a drink of water at halftime, right? So your brother, at Moriarty, at halftime, Cokes, drinks, snacks, and then when we hit the road to go back home, I always made sure we were taken care of. Man, that was hospitality.
Right.
We always looked forward to calling at Moriarty, as officials, because we knew we would be treated with some professionalism and that we mattered and that our job was important.
Right. And I kind of learned a lot when I became the AD over at West Las Vegas. He was my go-to guy, I guess, you can say, because I did. People would always say, well, if you get in a pinch, you can call this guy, and this guy. And I'm thinking, why would I want to call these people when my brother, who was at Moriarty, as you said, or the NMAA, talk about who could be a better go-to guy? And he taught me those things, how to treat people. You want to do this, you want to do it this way, you want to do it that way. I reached out even like to Dana at the NMAA. I reached out to certain people, Matt Martinez, who I consider one of the best ADs in the state of New Mexico, up at Cleveland now. But my brother taught me a lot of lessons when I became the AD at West, and I was grateful for that.
I got to say this, though. Again, you and I talk quite a bit, and that comes from your mom, right? That comes from your mother. Came from somewhere, because I feel like my mother and my father, they're both gone now. And the more I think about them, Rich, I realize how great they really were. I wish they were here one more day and I could say, wow, I know why you did what you did. They made sacrifices where they for us to do better than they did. Me and my brother and sister did better than they did because of their sacrifices. And I think that's your mother must have taught you and Gary. I think do you have another sibling?
We had altogether 6 of us.
Oh, wow.
2 girls,
So
4 boys and 2 girls.
Must have taught the whole family that, because that matters. And I think, the way we treat people, right? Because you made so many contacts as a teacher, as an administrator, as an athletic director. Again, broadcasting to us is definitely important. We love to do it. But we did other things in our life. And I think the contacts, the people that I see interact with you on Facebook, it's always with such respect. Coach, you were my teacher in Las Vegas. And those are contacts you'll never forget for the rest of our lives.
No, you don't. I was very grateful once I graduated from West, went to Highlands, of course, met my wife between West and Highlands. She was a cheerleader at Highlands, Debbie. Lost her about 7 years ago. But like you say, you go back and you think about the students. I taught at West for 29 and a half years, teaching. I coached there for over 30. And you say it, just the contacts you make. And one thing my mom, we lost her a couple of years ago, but that, she did teach us a lot, and she taught us a lot by actions. She taught us, she was a waitress for 100 years there in Las Vegas, and she taught us about, how to do things like through her actions, respect, how to treat people, the list goes on and on. So the people that I've met along this journey, whether it be students, coaches, fellow coaches, whatever it is, I owe a lot to her. And when those students, like you say, I wasn't expecting that. I woke up my birthday morning and saw on the message board, West Las Vegas just purchased a brand new message board like they did down in Hobbs. And the first thing they put on it is happy birthday, Tripp. Needless to say, I was a little overwhelmed. It did kind of strike a nerve, because when you think about it, the students that I've taught over the years, the players that I've coached over the years, it's humbling. I'll say it, Ed, you and I talk about it. You cannot imagine how humbling, honestly, it is when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, Coach, remember when? Or, hey, Mr. Tripp, remember when? It's been an amazing journey in that respect.
Yeah, I think that, it's something that as retirement's around the corner. I'm leaving December 1st. And in memories, I had a dream about where I work at the other night, and I haven't left yet, but I know that I love that place with all my heart and soul. I'll miss the mission right? But I don't think that mission ever ends. If you just because I'm retiring with the city of Albuquerque, the raging inferno to serve others is still there.
Right.
So I have to figure out a way, and I get the same memories that you do. Someone that I coached at Highland, or someone that, hey, I used to work for you at East San Jose back in the day, and I'm like, wow. And I think those contacts and those things that you have in your life, and we're not 67 or 87 or 77, but we're not 27 or 37 either.
No.
And I think we're realistic about where we are in our lives, but those are things that you just can't replace. And the people that say, hey, you had an effect, you touched my life in a different way, that matter. I remembered what you said to me. Then in those things there, if you made a difference, how important is that? And especially, again, the community of Las Vegas means so much to you.
Well, and by the way, just asking you a question, just the contacts and the people, the athletes you've touched through officiating.
Right.
People remember. But yeah, in Las Vegas, everybody assumes, Western, like this year for the state baseball championship game, people were scrambling, wanting to hire extra security. They wanted to bring out the National Guard, because thinking about Weston Robertson, the right they used to be back in the 60s and 70s, it's gone. That bitterness, it's gone. The community, yeah, you're still going to cheer for your Dons, you're going to cheer for your Cardinals, but at the end of the day, we just come right back together and we're one community, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. You go into places, and again, just the Las Vegas community, Highlands now in the middle, Luna Community College now there as well. But one of the things I'll always be grateful for, in Las Vegas, even though I'm a Don, and people take that very, very seriously in Las Vegas. You're a Don, you're a Cardinal, and people take that to heart. But at the end of the day, I've been able to make a lot of friends that went to Robertson. To this day, I consider very, very close personal friends, and that means a lot to me. That what happened. We're all just one community now, and I'm one of the few people still there because the town's shrinking. And I'm going to die a Don, I'm going to die a Las Vegan, I'm going to die a Highlands Cowboy, man, but I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned community, and I think about Coach Henry Sanchez, the former Bernalillo coach who coached at Las Vegas Robertson. I think about, you mentioned Darren Sanchez, the former great Albuquerque High Bulldog, the former New Mexico Highlands All-American in RMAC. And how proud he was of the legacy. His father was also the mayor of Las Vegas. And back in the day, I used to go to the Sanchez Galassini basketball camps at St. Pius. And Coach Sanchez, man, I'll tell you, he used to have great stories, about Bernalillo. And back in the day, I remember my brother played for St. Pius, and we would go watch at the old Spartan Alley. And I still remember the Ken Wood, the PA announcer. Here come the run-and-gun Bernalillo Spartans. That place would go crazy. That place would go crazy. And how small and intimate that was back at Spartan Alley. Right? So when I think about Coach Sanchez out there in Las Vegas and what a legacy he left at the Mexico Highlands, at Bernalillo, I think he passed away there in Las Vegas, right? That was his home, right?
Yeah, it became his home. He lived right across the street from Our Lady of Sorrows Church. By the way, I know Darren watches this show regularly, so I want to give Darren Sanchez, we talk pretty regularly, a big shout out. He is obviously very close to his dad. The impact his father had on Las Vegas when he moved up there was amazing, because I'll say this for me, I've never seen a person be taken in as quickly as he did. He went to Highlands, and it wasn't about, yes, it was about Highlands, but it was more about the community. He immediately reached out to the community. His buddies up at the Hillcrest restaurant that would meet there every morning. He wanted to make a difference, even as the head coach at Highlands. When he left Highlands, he went to Robertson, made an impact at Robertson. I think he had the heart of a Don, but just saying. But and then he becomes the mayor, and he starts all these programs to help the elderly. That was one of his big things, was the elderly. He also didn't hesitate. He was the only mayor, one of the first mayors I know. The mayor in Las Vegas is not a full-time position. You can select your hours and whatnot. He made it a full-time position because that's just the man he was. But he helped the elderly. He helped the youth with the programs he created. If somebody couldn't pay their gas bill, we'll find a way to do it. And that was always the way he ran politics in Las Vegas. The thing about Henry, like I said, it was never about Henry. And I've never seen that town embrace an outsider as quickly as they embraced him. And when the man passed away, it was just a total shock. I remember Mark Loetta calling me and telling me about it. I could not believe it. I thought, like my father-in-law, he had that same mystique. You thought the man was going to live forever. You know, and he's actually buried in Las Vegas, you know, and I'll stop by his grave once in a while and just say, thank you, Coach. You know, thank you. And Darren, really quick, just to kind of finish that thought, when Darren, he still has his house in Vegas, and Darren Coach had a library of photo albums of, name it, the Stu Clark tournament, high school sports, Bernalillo, name it. And Darren graciously allowed me to use everything he had collected for Highlands to help me with my broadcasting. So when we post things on Facebook or the Highlands Twitter, those are all via Henry Sanchez, you know. So, and the guy still, I mean, in some respects, Henry, his name is on the Wilson Complex floor where the Cowboys play, Henry O. Sanchez floor. You know, it was just amazing the impact he made in Vegas.
No, I'll tell you what, he sure did, and he definitely made one, you know, in Bernalillo, and I don't know if there's something named after him there. I know the court's named after Joseph Kleppel. That's great, but Coach Sanchez definitely deserves to be recognized out there as well. There was a rain delay out there in New Mexico Highlands. We'll get to that in the next segment on the Sports Desk.
Deep across the middle, and it's caught. Malik Phillips dancing away.
In the first half, he's been under pressure all game anyway. Smith back to pass. They're trying to set up the screen to Barker, and they've got blockers in front. Barker cuts it back. Barker in the open field, 40, 45, 50. Barker's got one man to beat. Barker may go to the house, and he will. Caden Barker Jordan Barker, touchdown, Carlsbad.
But here we go. Let's see how he does.
Cabrales will kick off from the 40 and
drives it hard.
And here they try to see that reverse again.
He fakes it.
So he's got it. He's got one man to beat, and a blocker in front. 35, 40, 50, 45. He's gone. There's no Hornet that will catch him. Opening kickoff return for Slade Campos, 80 yards and.
Ball falls for Nava, puts it forward for Moyers. Moyers gets it past the keeper, and it's 2-1.
Denard all by himself. They're looking for him. They throw it in the end zone. Underthrown and caught. How about that? Mercy. Trevon Denard. Wow.
It's his night.
It's his night.
What's up? Uses that foot. No, this time she goes low. And there's a scrum there. The ball's loose. And it's up and it's in. How about that? Going top shelf.
Good dump, and then a good wherewithal to keep it up. There's Jones on a good dig. Martinez. Huggins was blocked into a middle. Kept alive and then dumped back over. Let's keep playing, girls. Cross court this time from Cooperno. Jones sets to the outside. McIntosh was blocked. That's knocked back over. We'll continue the rally. Cooper on the right hand. Back row and McIntosh. A little miscommunication with Lucero. Let's see if that fires up these Cougars. Harris has some time. They'll roll out looking. Harris fires on the move, and it's complete. Slipping one is Webskowski, and another, and it's a foot race. Shot out of a cannon. Justin Webskowski. Can he take it all the way? Touchdown.
The Jaguars. There's Smith again, cuts it back. Nice run by Smith, still on his feet, going to the end zone. Touchdown.
Harris with the fake pitch, and now a run to the outside, and he's got some room. Nice move, Harris, look out. He's across the 40, a cut to midfield. He's got a blocker in front. Look out. Chance Harris, shot out of a cannon, and he's going to take it all the way. Touchdown.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club, or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili, breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all, or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
The world-famous Laguna Burger is beautifully handcrafted. A burger that's created from certified Angus beef, sinfully cooked to juicy perfection, and garnished with New Mexico's Hatch green chili. Tempt your taste buds with mouth-watering fresh ingredients.
Cut! We're gonna need another Laguna Burger. Try the irresistible, world-famous Laguna Burger. Visit thelagunaburger.com. It's fresh with a kick. Take 32.
Back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26. It's also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with ProView play-by-play announcer, also the voice of New Mexico Highlands, my very good friend Richard Tripp. Rich, great to have you with us. Great first segment, by the way. I think there's some things in there about Coach Sanchez that even I didn't know. I didn't know that, and I think he couldn't give enough of himself, right?
Right.
And to people in Las Vegas, and you remember the people that he touched. We'll never forget that. The help with the build. They don't look at him as a basketball guy. We know what his role was as a coach. He's a legend, right? He's a legend.
He is a legend.
But as a person, I always say this: there's people that are in the Hall of Fame for athletics, right? That doesn't mean that they're in the People Hall of Fame. That doesn't mean that. But Coach Sanchez, that's there's a bigger Hall of Fame to me, right?
Right.
I think to you too.
Yeah.
And the impact that he had that you mentioned, even I didn't know that. And I've known Coach Sanchez for many, many years.
Mhm.
Again, I go back to the stories of, there's no dating during the season, there's no this, there's no that. Former Bernalillo star Mike Romero was a good friend of mine, a very good friend, and he would tell me about some of the stories that Coach Sanchez, during the season, it was this way, or it was no way, and it was his way. And that's the way that they won, the run and gun Spartans back in the day. Oh my goodness. You knew you were up against it, right? Especially at Spartan Alley. So you just knew that. So great first segment. Rich, Highlands against Fort Lewis on Saturday. I think let's talk about that a little bit. We'll get into some Highlands football, but 3-hour rain, three lightning, and again, everybody, I don't know if they know this, but every time they see lightning strike, it's a 30-hour delay or 30-minute.
30-minute delay. It resets. And yeah, I didn't know this until Saturday. Jason Pohl was up there directing the game. So the way I understand it is, in the RMAC anyway, the host trainer has the lightning deal. And she's the one, in our case, Yvette, who's very good, she's the one that tracks lightning. And so, yes, I mean, we had just started the second quarter. We're like 12:53 in, and boom, the first lightning hits. And here we go. First one was a 2-hour delay, and then we got the game going again. And like 2 or 3 minutes into the game, Highlands is driving, a chance to tie it up. Lightning hits again, and we were on about a 6-hour delay, 5.5-hour delay before the coaches decided to call it off, and without, let's just say, without approval from the RMAC, who we understand got very upset
that the game was called off.
That the game was called off because what we understand was, the RMAC had told both schools, you're going to stay there and play that game. You're going to stay there and finish it.
No matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes. And we were, it was already like 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. This game started at 1. It was still raining. It was supposed to rain till midnight. Lightning was still in the area. And the RMAC said, you guys are playing. Coaches got together and said, you know what, for the safety of the players, for this, Fort Lewis has to get back to Durango. We'll just cut our losses here. It was an interesting day. I never experienced anything like that, but it was a very interesting day, man. I mean, lightning, we must have had, I'm going to say, they told me yesterday, close to 15 different resets on the clock every time lightning hit. So it was an interesting day to say the least.
And we've seen those electrical storms before, and you could see one over there and one over there. So every time that happens, it's a reset.
It's a reset.
30-minute reset. Now, I got to ask you this now. It was the commissioner that said that from the RMAC? Was it?
Well, we're not sure if it was a commissioner or just the office. We don't know if we don't know who they were in contact with, but pretty much, they just said, well, you guys need, being it's a conference game, all these things, you guys need to figure out a way to finish it. We thought, well, what if we come back tomorrow morning and finish it? In Fort Lewis, of course, you can't blame them. Well, it's 8 o'clock. Where are we going to get rooms, food, etc.? The only time to play it is in the morning because it's supposed to rain Sunday afternoon. I want to go and watch the Dallas Cowboys myself, but when they were trying to think of all kinds of scenarios to play the game. It's not that neither school did not want to play it. Of course you want to play it. It's the first game of the year. First game of the year is just that, they tried. Fort Lewis and Highlands both tried, man, and at the end of the day, you got to think about the players. First game of the year, you got to think about your squads, man. I mean, you didn't work all summer to have some in the field, even though it's turf. It's got great drainage, but it had been raining all day. Water was starting to build up all around. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I get that point there. And then what fans remained at 8 o'clock? How many fans? I have to ask you this. Now, you got some people driving up from Colorado, I'm sure. But how many people remained at 8 o'clock after all these delays? Yeah, I have to ask that.
You'd be surprised. It shocked me. Yeah, you get people from Fort Lewis. We had people that had flown in from Florida. Either they have players either from Fort Lewis or Highlands, California, Arizona, Nevada, that had come in for the game. And so what happened in the parking lot across the street from Perkins Stadium, that I still call it. The Perk. There was actually a couple of tents, and they had about, counting Highlands and Fort Lewis fans, they had close to 100 people still there just waiting it out. What they were doing under that tent, I couldn't tell you. Nor do I want to know.
Yeah.
But there were some good chicharrones going on. Chris Garcia, whose son used to play at Cibola, he was there. His son now plays at Highlands, and he was cooking up some good chicharrones. But, yeah, I mean, there was maybe 100 people left. They waited it out.
For all that delay, I mean, that's pretty surprising. But I guess you've never seen this, and you've been broadcasting with ProView Networks also up in Las Vegas for many, many years. And this is the first delay you've seen like this?
In football, yeah. In football, definitely the worst I've ever seen. I've been involved in some, but the only one that I can even think of that came close to this was a few years back. We were doing the state championship softball game over at Lobo Field, and that's the year that I think track finally ended like at 1 in the morning because of all the lightning delays. Softball, we had about 3 or 4 lightning delays. We were about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours behind schedule. That's as close as I have ever come to this.
Yeah,
So it was kind of strange, to say the least.
That's crazy. Again, that's kind of that they wanted you to keep playing it, and yeah, where were they going to? It's another night's stay, another night's lodging, food. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But I want to ask you about New Mexico Highlands football team. What's the prospects? How are the Cowboys looking?
Well, Marty Fine and I talk once in a while. The head coach at Highlands, a great guy. I'll tell you this: there are a lot of dudes we got back this year. The offensive line should be pretty darn good. The defense, a little skeptical right now, but the secondary is pretty good. They have a lot of dudes back there as well. The quarterback situation is going to be the mystery. We have a young man, Gunnar Miffer, who's from California, Northern California, transfer over from a JC up there. He's a little bit of a pocket passer. We have another quarterback. The name kind of slips my mind right now because we didn't get a chance to see him that much. He's more of a running type quarterback. So if the questions for Highlands, if there's going to be questions, they're going to be at the quarterback position. And it was kind of evident in the first quarter and a half we saw the defensive front. Those are going to probably be the two biggest questions that they have. They had some guys that that were a little bit banged up. That they're going to get them back this coming week when they head up to Adams. But the kicking game, Israel Farfan, one of the best kickers in the RMAC. He can kick it from 55. He was in pregame. He was nailing them from 53, 54. Really, really good leg. Made RMAC Player of the Week a couple of times last year. Special teams are not too bad. The name is he's from Volcano Vista, the punter that we have this year as well. Pretty good. So it's just a matter of time because in the RMAC, you have 4 solid, almost D1 schools. You got Dixie State, who will be D1 next year. They're leaving. You got Mesa State, who is pretty darn good. You have Colorado School of Mines, who all of a sudden looks like a D1 program the way they show up. And then, of course, Old Faithful, CSU Pueblo, up in Pueblo, Colorado. So you have 4 monsters in that conference that are just flat out equivalent to small D1 schools. But it's going to take a lot for Highlands to overcome some odds. But, Marty and his staff do a great job. It's just going to matter of how soon can the pieces, the quarterback position, the defensive line, how soon can those things develop and gel? Because in the conference, you got 1 non-conference game. This year they're playing 2, but they'll play Western New Mexico at the end of the year here in Albuquerque. But you got 1 non-conference game. The rest is conference, and you hit it full throttle. So it's going to be interesting.
No, that will be interesting. Now, the concerns on the defensive line is a rotation, depth, size, experience. What are the concerns there?
Yes.
It's
pretty much all that. You got to have depth, of course, early in the season because it's so hot. They're not that big up front, but they're big enough to hold their own. They're quick. They're very fast. It's just a matter of like I said, they did have 2 guys down this game that probably could have helped, made an impact, or if the game would have gone on. Just a few factors right in. One thing about Highlands, we're not going to get the 100 and some athletes that a lot of schools do. We'll get 65, 70. So you make the most of what you got. And for the most part, it's a work in progress. But again, size could be a factor. But I think they have enough speed to make up for that.
That's, again, the season just started. Now, let me ask you this, Rich. The game was called, canceled, called off. Fort Lewis leading 7-0.
7-0.
Does that go in the books?
No. The last we heard was both coaches agreed on no contest. So the game never happened. Because there was some talk as to if they called the game, would Fort Lewis get the win? Would it revert back to 0-0? Would Highlands forfeit if they didn't play the game? All these factors. And the last thing we heard was it was going to go down as what's called no game, which means it never happened.
So Highlands is still in both Fort Lewis and New Mexico Highlands at 0-0.
Right.
So the game never happened. So this will be their opener. They play at
Adams State.
When you mentioned Colorado School of Mines and Pueblo, I remember, if I remember right, last year Mines pretty much put it on Highlands. I think at Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah, because I watched that game.
Yeah, Mines came in and kind of did it to us, and I could not believe. I was talking to Marty Fine that week because we always do a game day Twitter preview of the game, and you know, Marty, very, very humble, very subtle guy, but he's also going to be truthful. And I remember just asking him, he didn't say a word, he just shook his head. Then you walk down on the field, you see it, because one thing about doing college is you're going to find out at Western, they give you these 2 deep rosters, and you're just looking at the size of these guys, and you're going like, no way. There's no way a D2 school can be this big. You know, you're looking at our roster, and you're going, okay, that's about okay for RMAC and for D2. Then you walk on the field, and you see these guys from Mines, and you're just, there's no way.
You're talking about all the linemen
All-
over 300,
yeah,
320, 330?
320 is being modest. This is, you know, just kind of joking around, as big as the 92, 93 Dallas Cowboy offensive line with Nate Newton and company.
Great Wall of Dallas?
Yeah, Great Wall of Dallas. But, you know, I remember not knocking Mines because it's a great institution, one of the greatest in the country. But there was a time when School of Mines was everybody's homecoming. I mean, that was the RMAC homecoming right there.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, between them and then we'll see Dixie State in a couple of weeks. They get to come to Vegas for homecoming. You know, I think we have to go to Pueblo, you know, but Mesa's always been that team. They're literally, you know, where they're at. Believe it or not, you wouldn't think, well, where does Mesa State get all these kids from? But just in that Denver area, when you have those millions of high school kids to pick from, and they do bring some from Kansas, they'll bring some from Nebraska, Mesa will, you know, but Mines, of course, they're going to recruit the athlete and they're going to recruit the student. And they, in the last 10 years, they've done a good job of both.
Yeah, it sounds like it. They not anybody's whipping boy or doormat.
And we're talking every sport, by the way,
anymore.
Mines.
Okay, so they're on the rise there for sure. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Rich, we'll go over last week's high school games. I know you were a big part of Cleveland, El Dorado. We'll look at all those when we come back next on the Sports Desk.
To Hernandez, he's the hot hand.
Okay.
Steps back and buries the trifecta. Uh-oh.
All right.
Up front, Edcroft, and stolen once again, this time by Panilli. Takes it up. Atler blocks it. Here's Quais from Taos
High School.
up north. He had a good game for the juniors here.
Head coach Thomas Chavis. Here we go. That's nice.
Just straight dunk. Gives it to Paredes, lays it up back to Agbaosi,
yeah.
layup, and the dunk by Deraje Agbaosi.
Good block. This is Jose from Highland. Here we go.
Little spinneroonie there.
It's here. Here we go.
Throws it up.
Oh, that was nice. That was nice.
Scarpa, no hesitation in firing a three. Oh, followed up nicely on the slam by Jefferson. That is a beautiful play by Jefferson. Javon Jefferson of El Dorado. Wow, what a follow.
Las Cruces. Oh, he makes that. 3-point play. 4-pointer.
Okay, that was just nasty. Okay. Oh, there it is.
All right.
Okay, did you get that one?
I got that one.
All right.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
ABQ ER and Hospital is changing the way you see ER in Albuquerque. We promise to see each patient within 10 minutes of arrival. ABQ ER and Hospital is now offering $25 school physicals, with 100% of proceeds donated back to the schools.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
Nunez, along with ProView play-by-play announcer, also the voice of New Mexico Highlands, my very good friend Richard Tripp. Rich, we're going to go over some highlights from last week's game, and you were involved in one of them. And our producer Alden Iowani, who always does a great job, will get them up for us. The highlights. Let's see what game we have first. Cibola versus Highland, the game I covered for ProView Networks. Cibola is 3-0. We'll talk about them in a minute.
Right.
And we had talked about the reverse that they love to do. And watch this ball handling here. Slade Campos, look at him. He's going down the left sideline, and he fooled everybody. 92 yards for the opening touchdown. And after that, Highland hung in there, though. They really did. Campos, they love to run that reverse with him and Mikey Garcia, the wide receiver cornerback. This is Aiden Chavez in the red zone here. Campos on a 2-yard touchdown run. 3 touchdowns in the first half for the Cibola Junior.
And I got to give it up to Rod, the head coach at Cibola, man.
There's no Lopez for Highland. Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, he's a former Highlands guy, by the way.
Former player out there.
Yeah, really good player too.
There's Campos with his 3rd touchdown.
And I got to give him some love in the job he's done at Cibola with his football program.
I want to ask you about them in a minute here, because they are 3-0. And there's another Highland touchdown by the quarterback on the rest, Gallegos Ortega. And here's the. I think one of the last touchdowns to Mikey Garcia, who fights his way into the end zone there. Great run by Mikey Garcia after being trapped. It seemed like on the 1-yard line. Another back shoulder throw to Dylan Harkness. They've got size at receiver there. They have Spalding, Harkness, Garcia, Jerome Benavides. This is Noah Flores on a 45-yard field goal. He just came back from an ACL. This is a big kick for him. Wow. Barely got over the crossbar, but he got it to go. Final score, Cibola 38, Highland 12. So Highland actually ranked 10 in this week's poll, and it's been many years since Highland had made an appearance in the top 10. Let's go to our next game. That's a game that you had, Rich. I'll let you take this away.
Well, yeah, no, Bruce Carver and I had this one. And here's Mr. Darius. On the very first play of the game, he pops one for like 70-some yards. And this was really the last time we saw him.
Didn't get too many carries after that.
Didn't get too many carries, but he did catch a touchdown pass. He also had one rushing throughout the night. One of the kids, that young man right there, Denard, was one
Trevor
kid
Denard?
That Bruce and I were very, very, impressed with. In fact, I gave his name to the Highlands coaching staff. Tom, you got to check out this dude. Eldorado tried to run a reverse right off the bat and bobbled it. Must have been the first game of the year. But there's Darius. That's a touchdown pass he caught. He's small, he's shifty. Everybody knows about him.
Explosive.
He's not that big of a secret, but he just has a knack, for finding the seams, and getting loose. Their passing game was off the hook. That's one thing about Cleveland. This is a nice touch here, and what a great catch. They made several. Again, Denard's just something else.
And Trey Watson, the junior, is out with a broken right forearm.
Right. And Weisoff, I believe is his name.
Weissong?
Man, he didn't catch a pass the entire first quarter. And then midway through the second quarter, he probably ended up leading the team in receptions. You know, he's one of those guys, he's that safety net, you know, for Cleveland. You know, Alvarado is a pick.
That's by Murphy, I believe. I
Yeah.
heard your call this morning when I was watching ProView Networks.
You know, Charlie Dotson, to me, is one of the best coaches in the state of New Mexico. And,
Just
you
a
know,
great guy,
getting
too.
Greg Hennington Alvarez, the OC from Belen, former Highlands guy. You know, got to give some love to those purple and white dudes, you know. But, you know, they're down, and I'm sure Charlie would be the first to tell you know, here's some things going on. This was a great run here. This was actually their first touchdown of the game.
I saw that this morning.
You know, and they're a ways off from where maybe by the end of the year they're going to be a lot better. It's a great program. It's one of those things where you're playing tradition, of course, going back to the good days, the good glory days. You know, just every team goes through these. There's
no
not
doubt.
There's not a high school, there's not a college, even a pro team.
Ben Westy on a Wildcat. I like that formation there.
That he kind of surprised us. Bruce and I were kind of looking down both. I mean, you have a couple of 61-year-old men looking down at the field, kind of wondering, can we even see that far? But you know, this to me was what a catch by Denard. What a catch! The defender did everything he could, and it just enough, and he lands up catching it for a touchdown. Cleveland's a real deal. I'll say that they are by far the real deal. They will be, barring injuries, barring whatever. I put it out there. They will be one of the top 3, if not 4 teams.
Ranked,
in
there's
the
another
state.
interception. Ranked number 2 this week in this week's polls sent to us by our good friend Manny Lucero.
Yep, Manny for NMOT Sports. There's a touchdown run here. Yeah, they've got it all. They've got the speed. They got the defense. They've got the quarterback. It's just one of those things, you know, down the stretch. We'll find out.
Cleveland 63, El Dorado 21, and that was a running clock there at Lightning Bolt Stadium. And, of course, the great Gary Chavez at PA there and giving you a shout-out. And I heard that over the radio. Here's Rio Rancho and Clovis. This is our My 50 game of the week on Friday night. And there's a score by Rio Rancho. And this game was up and down for a while until the Rams finally took control late in the third quarter.
The thing about, you know, if you don't mind, these two teams here, they've played so many high-scoring games the last 5 or 6 years. You never really know what's going to happen. It could be a 21-20 game. It could be a 56-55 game. And
what a beautiful throw by Isaiah Chavez. No, you're right, Rich. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, Chavez, to me, and I've said this since last year, the last 2 years actually, he's probably one of the best running quarterbacks there is in the state. You know, I remember last year and a couple of years back, every time they brought him in the game, he had a knack for getting them back in the game or making something happen. There's a touchdown. And Clovis, to me, they're there. They're coming. You know, the Clovis of old. It's just a matter of time. You know, they had a chance here to maybe get that signature win. Obviously, they're going to get more chances having to play La Cueva still down the road. But they're that close, I think, you know, from being back to the Clovis of old.
Oh, that was a beautiful play. They're nearly intercepted, and Rio Rancho has another score from short yardage.
I don't know who has more home jerseys, Oregon or Rio Rancho, but anyway.
I saw your post on Oregon the other day. We don't even know what their colors are anymore. There's a long, and you mentioned Coach Cal Fullerton, the son of Dale Fullerton, doing a great job. And Steve Davis had him as a guest on the Steve Davis show last week or 2 weeks ago when they went to Clovis. Says it was a very strange formation. I heard Chris Williams talk about that formation on My 50. Chris Williams, the former Rio Rancho star, one of our color commentators now.
Yeah.
Look at this run here. This was a great run. I heard Adam Deal describe that. And his famous shot out of a cannon. He certainly was shot out of a cannon there.
I think this young man runs track, and I'll even go a step further and probably say he's either the starter or he's the final leg in the 4x for that relay team down in Clovis. Just his acceleration and his finish.
That was a nice run inside and then out by one of the Ram running backs there. So final score, Rio Rancho 48, Clovis 28. And our last game that myself and yours truly and Roger Holian covered was at Community Stadium with Carlsbad and Atrisco Heritage. Our producer Alden Ioane doing a great job with our highlights. And this was all Carlsbad. It's a run by Shamir Smith. They really put it on Atrisco Heritage. 2 onside kicks recovered.
back shoulder throw to Xavier Ingram. Only where Ingram, well thrown, well placed. Here's Ingram's second touchdown of the game. He had 3 overall. As really Carlsbad against a very overmatched Atrisco Heritage squad, just really probably could have ended it at half if they had wanted to. Here's a Jaden Barker on a middle screen, 82 yards. And watch the speed in the open field, Rich, and has Jaguars just gasping for air. And it's a hot day at Community Stadium anyway.
You always know the guys who run track, the last 20 yards.
They just separate.
20, it's separation. Those are the kind of guys.
There's Ingram's third touchdown. He's wide open. You know, and Patrick Johnson and the Jaguars are definitely struggling a little bit, no question about it.
Well, they had their good run a few years back when Good and those guys were there. And
there's Sebastian Gonzalez with a score for Atrisco Heritage.
You just can't, I mean, no disrespect. I mean, I taught at Atrisco. I'm a former Jaguar in some respects. But lean times right now, but they'll find a way.
Carlsbad 45, Atrisco Heritage 7. Let's take a break and we'll be back for one final segment on the Sports Desk.
What is glamour?
To win the race, I can't even explain how. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. No matter where you go, you're an Indy 500 winner. The only way to be successful in racing is to stay on top of the technical edge, and we've done that with our dealership. So a lot of the technology in our service department and sales processes, and everything is the very latest. That gives you an edge. That's being competitive in the car business. You can take it any way you want, but that's the truth.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with New Mexico Highlands play-by-play announcer, also play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks, my good friend Richard Tripp. Rich, it's been a great time, man. Really has got some good information out there.
It's been fun. Hey, man, I want to congratulate you. I got to congratulate my boy Ed Nunez here, the voice of Western New Mexico, starting this year as well, man. Volleyball, football, man. Going to have a good time down in Silver, bro.
Yeah, you know, we're going down tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome.
You know, I think about the career, like we all started somewhere, right? I started with Henry T, you know, been able to do some great things with Mike Adams on 610. But we all started somewhere.
Right.
And I remember, you're going to laugh about this, I've said this story before. I was doing color with Henry T at the pit one time, and in the middle of the game, Henry T says this, now making his debut as play-by-play announcer, Ed Nunez. And I wasn't ready for that at all. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was comfortable in my role. But he made me think outside my box, and it took me, you know, I'm still refining things. You and I talk about announcing and play-by-play things a lot. I'll never be that guy, but you know what? That doesn't mean I can't get better, and I'm still working working to get better,
we
to
all
do
are.
things different, right? And it's a skill, it's a craft.
Right.
When you and I have both learned, I learned from Henry, right? I've learned by listening to you, to Adam, to Robert Portnoy, to Mike Roberts back in the day. I still remember Mike, the biggest Lobo homer there ever was, but a legend, right?
A legend.
Vince Scully's, the Kurt Gowdy's, the Al Michaels, the Bob. I was listening to Bob Costas do a ABA with the St. Louis Spirits the other day. I said, wow, that guy, that was years ago. That guy was great at a young age. The Jack Bucks, so there's Dick Enbergs, Connie Alexanders. There's been so many announcers that we've learned from. But I do want to mention this, Rich. Lobo's going to Notre Dame this week, Bob Davies' old stomping grounds. Unfortunately, Coach Davey, we wish him well. He had a medical episode against Sam Houston State. Saga Tuatelli will be the interim coach for the Lobos on the sideline, but we wish the Lobos and Coach Davey all the best of luck.
Yeah, going to South Bend, that's a rough chore as it is, and when you're going in without your head coach, your field general, you're going in there against the odds anyway, but it's a big day for UNM football. I mean, that's about as big time as you're going to get. I mean, people talk about Alabama, call it what you want, Clemson this year, but you're going into probably the greatest college football stadium to ever be built.
Yeah,
the
no
Golden
question.
Dome and everything.
And they said, they almost, I'm sure, Coach Davey, again, we wish him all the best. But of course, Rich, it'd be like you going to somewhere else and then return to West Las Vegas. Of course you want to go, right?
Right.
And I guess they really had to really talk him down because he wanted to go. But any doctor, if I see a doctor, if I had a medical episode, they're going to say, what do you do for a living? And when I tell them what I do, they're going to say, well, you need to stay away from stress. And coaching is, it's 97 degrees that day on the field against Sam Houston State. And he probably needs to stay away from that for a while. Hopefully he can return later in the season.
Right.
But it's a big moment for the Lobos, as you mentioned. But I wanted to get into some other things. We talked about, you and I are big Dallas Cowboy fans. They beat the New York Giants on Sunday. And Dak Prescott 4 touchdowns. I really like Randall Cobb. Ezekiel Elliott held out. He wasn't his usual Ezekiel Elliott in shape, fast, hitting the hole. We didn't see that, but they didn't need it. I think with him as a threat anyway, it really opened up the passing game. What were your impressions of the Cowboys' first victory?
Super Bowl or bust, period. No.
Yeah, how many years have we been saying that?
I even put it out on my Facebook page and whatnot. I've been saying it. I'm going to low-key the Cowboy season this year. And, man, but everything is there. It's as good of a defense that we had during the 90s, probably 92 and 93. It's as good of an offense with all the weapons. When Aikman had the triplets were in business with Smith and Irvin.
Novacek.
The offensive line is as good as it was during that time. All the pieces are finally in place. The Elliott thing was a minor distraction. I say it's minor because eventually Jerry is going to sign him. Jerry, call him what he is, but he ain't dumb.
Right.
And it's like Troy Aikman said during the game, Jerry will spend money. He ain't afraid. And like Troy Aikman said it too, if there wasn't a salary cap in the NFL, Dallas would corner the market, on every easy. So all the pieces are in place. It's just a matter of now. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's the NFL, but all the pieces are in place.
I think the same thing, and I've been a fan as long as you since 1970. Again, there's a lot of things. Dak looked unbelievable, but I think Kellen Moore, John Kidna, new quarterback coach, and they have different personnel groupings, different ways they're calling the plays. Now, we used to complain, I know I did, about the way Linehan called games. A lot of people did. You're not hearing too many complaints, at least after game one. Well, let's got about a minute left. Rich, is this going to be the year of your Los Angeles Dodgers winning the World Series? Haven't won one since '88. Got about a minute left.
I hate the Houston Astros. I know a lot of people in Albuquerque have a sentimental flair to them. I've hated the Astros since 1980 when they beat the Dodgers in the playoff. But that said, because that's to me right now the only team that could beat the Dodgers are the Houston Astros. I know people are saying the Yankees, and they had that hiccup a couple of weeks ago in that series. The Dodgers will beat the Yankees if they play them. Houston worries me, but I have to say it. This is our year. Bullpen, but this is our year.
Cowboys and Dodgers, there you got it. Our special guest today, Richard Tripp, thanks so much for joining us.
It's awesome,
man. Again, for sure.
Good luck to the Mustangs.
Thank you very much. For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.
Hernandez, he's the hot hand.
Okay.
Steps back and buries the trifecta. Uh-oh.
All right.